The 21 grams experiment, conducted by Dr. Duncan McDougall in 1907, is a controversial attempt to measure the weight of the human soul. Dr. Duncan McDougall, a physician from Haverhill, Massachusetts, hypothesized that the soul had a physical weight. To test this, he devised an experiment involving 6 terminally ill patients. He placed these patients on specially constructed beds with sensitive scales to measure any weight change at the precise moment of their passing. According to McDougall, he observed a consistent weight loss of about 21 grams at the moment of passing in several cases. He attributed this loss of weight to the departure of the soul from the body. McDougall took meticulous steps to eliminate other possible explanations for the weight loss. He accounted for the loss of bodily fluids and air in the lungs. Despite these controls, critics have pointed out several flaws in his methodology. The sample size was very small, and the precision of his scales was questionable by today's standards. Additionally, the exact moment of passing is not a single, easily identifiable instance, complicating such measurements. Furthermore, McDougall's experiment has never been replicated under controlled conditions, and the scientific community has largely dismissed his findings as unscientific. Unfortunately, McDougall didn't stop his testing with human subjects who were about to pass. He extended his experiment to 15 dogs, expecting to observe a similar weight change. However, no such change occurred, leading him to conclude that dogs did not have souls. Personally, having read about this experiment, I may be more inclined to determine that Dr. McDougall is lacking in soul. I'll just say this for any squeamish viewers out there. All 15 of the dogs were perfectly healthy before interacting with Dr. McDougall. This aspect of his research has been particularly controversial, with modern standards viewing it as unethical. Despite its scientific shortcomings, the 21 grams experiment has permeated popular culture. The idea that the soul weighs 21 grams has been referenced in films, such as the 2003 movie 21 Grams, as well as in various books, songs, and TV shows. This enduring fascination speaks to the human desire to understand the nature of the soul and the afterlife. This was suggested by Discord community member Take Nengi. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel, located in the Bighorn National Forest of Wyoming, is an ancient and mysterious structure. Situated at nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, this site offers a remarkable glimpse into the cultural and spiritual practices of various Native American tribes. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel, believed to be about 700 years old, predates the arrival of contemporary Native American tribes in the region. It consists of a central cairn surrounded by a circle of stones with 28 spokes radiating outward, forming a wheel-like structure with a diameter of roughly 80 feet. This unique construction has been associated with several Native American tribes, including the Crow, who have used it for vision quests and fasting rituals. One of the interesting aspects of the Bighorn Medicine Wheel is its astronomical alignments. Research conducted in the 1970s by astronomer John Eddy revealed that the wheel's spokes align with the rising and setting points of the sun during the summer solstice. Additionally, specific cairns within the wheel align with the heliacal rising of stars, such as Rigel and Sirius. This suggests that the medicine wheel may have functioned as an ancient observatory, helping its builders track celestial events and mark significant times of the year. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel holds profound spiritual significance for various Native American tribes. It is considered a sacred site for ceremonies, prayers, and offerings, as well as for the accumulation of more worldly knowledge. Tribes such as the Crow, Cheyenne, Lakota Sioux, and Shoshone have all utilized the medicine wheel for rituals aimed at healing, giving thanks, and seeking guidance. The Crow tribe, for instance, recounts the story of a boy named Burnt Face, who is said to have built the medicine wheel after being healed by eagles during a vision quest. This boy was said to have received help from a group of mysterious people known as the Little People. However, that said, other tribes have different stories as to how the Bighorn medicine wheel came to be, with many attributing it to unknown ancient ancestors. Today, the Bighorn medicine wheel is protected as a National Historic Landmark, reflecting its importance to Native American heritage and to American heritage generally. The site is carefully managed to balance public access with the need for preservation and respect for ongoing spiritual practices. Visitors are encouraged to observe respectfully, especially during times when the site is used for private Native American ceremonies. Henut Tawi. Henut Tawi, an ancient Egyptian priestess from the 21st dynasty, around 1000 BC, remains an interesting figure in history due to the mysterious findings associated with her mummy. Her life, although not well documented, is believed to have been connected to the temple of Amun at Thebes. After her passing, her body was embalmed and entombed in the Deir el-Bahari necropolis, later becoming part of a collection located in Munich, Germany. The intrigue surrounding Henut Tawi intensified in 1992, when toxicologist Dr. Svetlana Balabanova discovered traces of cocaine and nicotine on the mummy. This discovery was groundbreaking because both substances are derived from plants native to the Americas and were not believed to be present in Africa until after Columbus's voyages. The detection of these substances in Henut Tawi's mummy suggested the possibility of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact between the ancient Egyptians and the New World. Balabanova's findings were initially met with skepticism and theories of contamination, such as modern handling or environmental exposure. However, further analyses supported her results, finding similar substances in other mummies, including those of Pharaoh Ramses II. These discoveries have led some researchers to explore the idea that ancient Egyptians might have had trade links with the Americas or other distant lands far earlier than previously believed. Ancient Egyptian seafaring capabilities lend some credence to these theories. Historical records and archaeological discoveries show that Egyptians undertook significant maritime expeditions. One of the most famous was Queen Hatshepsut's voyage to the land of Punt around the 15th century BC. Relics from these journeys depict large ships and exotic goods, indicating that the Egyptians could potentially navigate long distances. However, that said, critics of this theory point out that the land of Punt is likely in present-day Somalia, and while it would have required navigating the Horn of Africa, this wasn't America. Despite the compelling nature of these findings, the theory of ancient transoceanic contact remains extremely controversial. Further, I note that this theory seems to suggest trans-Pacific trade routes rather than transatlantic trade routes. While some scholars argue for the existence of ancient global trade networks, others caution that more concrete evidence is needed to substantiate such claims. So I think this is a case where I can safely evoke Occam's razor. Either the Egyptians were conducting trans-Pacific trade nearly 4,000 years ago, or one or more Egyptologists had a drug problem. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but this one seems like a fairly clearly cut case to me. Kikiyama, the creator of Yume Nikki. Kikiyama, the creator of the cult classic game Yume Nikki, is one of the most enigmatic figures in the indie game community. Very little is known about Kikiyama, who has remained anonymous since the game's initial release. Despite the mystery surrounding Kikiyama, Yume Nikki has left a significant impact on gaming culture and continues to intrigue players worldwide. Yume Nikki, which translates to Dream Diary, was released on June 26, 2004, as a free game created using RPG Maker 2003. The game follows a character named Madotsuki as she explores her surreal and often disturbing dreams. The gameplay is unconventional, focusing on exploration and atmosphere rather than combat or narrative progression. The game's lack of dialogue and clear objectives has led to various fan theories and interpretations. Players collect effects throughout the game, which alter Madotsuki's appearance and abilities, adding layers of symbolism and mystery. The open-ended nature of Yume Nikki allows for personal interpretation, making each player's experience unique. One of the most intriguing aspects of Yume Nikki is the near-total absence of information about Kikiyama. After the game's release, Kikiyama became even more reclusive, ceasing updates after 2007. This sudden disappearance has sparked numerous theories about Kikiyama's fate and motivations, but no definitive information has surfaced. Despite the lack of updates, Yume Nikki gained a substantial following, particularly in the West, after fan translations made it accessible to a broader audience. Its unique style and eerie tone have inspired numerous indie games, including one of the most successful indie titles of all time, Undertale. In 2013, a manga adaptation of Yume Nikki was serialized, and a light novel titled Yume Nikki, I Am Not in Your Dream was published. These adaptations, while semi-official, were not directly created by Kikiyama, but were approved by them. Both works expanded on the game's lore, providing more concrete narratives that some fans felt detracted from the original's ambiguity. In January 2018, a countdown on the Kadokawa Games website led to the announcement of Yume Nikki Dream Diary, a 3D reboot developed with Kikiyama's supervision. The reboot aimed to modernize the game while introducing new elements and characters. However, it received mixed reviews, with critics arguing that it lost some of the original's charm and mystique. Theories about Kikiyama's identity and whereabouts abound, ranging from the mundane to the fantastical. Some speculate that Kikiyama might be a collective pseudonym for multiple developers, while others believe that the game's dark themes might reflect Kikiyama's personal struggles. More wild theories have suggested that the game is some sort of ARG or alternative reality game, with an as yet unknown purpose. The lack of concrete information only fuels the intrigue and speculation. This is a suggestion by Discord community member Marsh. The Flintstones Mandela Effect. The Flintstones Mandela Effect is a phenomenon where many people remember the classic cartoon as the Flintstones, without the first T. This is contrary to its official and historical spelling as the Flintstones. The Mandela Effect, named after people incorrectly remembering Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, encompasses a range of such collective false memories. In the case of the Flintstones, the discrepancy lies in the show's title. Despite the correct spelling being Flintstones, referring to flint, a type of stone relevant to the prehistoric setting of the show, a significant number of individuals distinctly recall it as Flintstones. On Reddit, users have shared their experiences and confusion over the Flintstones versus Flintstones discrepancy. Some even claim to recall looking at the title on various platforms and noticing it changing back and forth between the two spellings. In the words of one Reddit user, it was always Flintstones. Flint is a type of stone. Or to put it even more concisely, another Reddit user keenly observed, "What is a Flynn?" The Flintstones Mandela Effect is on the exact opposite end of the spectrum of the Fruit of the Loom Mandela Effect. That is to say, it has no potential credibility at all, and is clearly just a misheard name. I would argue that Flintstone is a perfectly acceptable way to pronounce Flintstone, and that many people do it unknowingly while speaking fast and casually. Tupac Shakur is alive. The conspiracy theory that Tupac Shakur is still alive has persisted for nearly 3 decades, fueled by a mix of circumstantial evidence, sightings, and cryptic messages in his music. The most significant piece of circumstantial evidence is the cremation and missing body. After Tupac was shot on September 7th, 1996, he was reportedly cremated the next day, and his body was never publicly seen again. Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records, who was with Tupac when he was shot, has expressed skepticism that the man cremated was Tupac. He has claimed that the man who cremated Tupac disappeared with a substantial amount of money and was never heard from again. This does not appear to have been independently verified in any way. Adding to the mystery is Tupac's posthumous album, The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, released under the pseudonym Machiavelli. The album cover depicted Tupac as Jesus Christ, hinting at resurrection. Some fans also point to hidden messages in his lyrics and album artwork as evidence that Tupac planned his escape. For example, in the song I Ain't Hard to Find, he raps about rumors of his death being exaggerated. However, critics of this theory note that his lyrics contained references to his own mortality for years before his death. Since his death, Tupac has released more albums posthumously than when he was alive. This prolific output has led some to believe that Tupac continues to record in secret. Lyrics in these albums, such as his repeated claims of returning like Jesus, have been interpreted as hints at his survival. This phenomenon suggests that his star power has only grown after death, creating a fertile ground for conspiracy theories. One of the most popular theories is that Tupac escaped to Cuba, and unlike the other theories, there is circumstantial evidence to suggest this is theoretically possible. This theory is supported by his connections to Assata Shakur, his aunt who has lived in Cuba since escaping from a U.S. prison in 1979. Cuba, with its strained relations with the U.S., is seen as an ideal hideout for someone looking to disappear. Knight's son has also made claims of Tupac being alive, suggesting that he lives in Malaysia and still produces new music. Another even more fringe theory suggests that Tupac escaped the United States to live in Serbia, of all places. No meaningful evidence has been put forward as proof of any of these theories. Anyway, given that the slaying of Tupac is now all but open and shut, I suspect that this conspiracy theory will slowly wither away. I mean, continuing to believe that Tupac is alive would be as absurd as believing Elvis or Michael Jackson faked their own deaths to get out of the spotlight. Ant colonies are among the most intricate and organized social structures in the animal kingdom. With a history that dates back to the Cretaceous period, these social insects have developed complex systems that allow them to thrive in diverse environments across the globe. Ants evolved from wasp-like ancestors, approximately 100 million years ago. Over 13,000 species of ants have been classified, but the actual number of species is estimated to be around 22,000. Ants are found on every continent except, perhaps somewhat ironically, Antarctica, and thrive in almost every terrestrial habitat. An ant colony functions as a superorganism, where individual ants work collectively for the survival and success of the colony. The colony's structure typically includes one or several queens, sterile female workers, and male drones. The queen's primary role is reproduction and maintenance of the colony's population levels. She can live for several years and produce millions of eggs during her lifetime. Workers perform various tasks such as foraging for food, caring for the young, maintaining the nest, and defending the colony. Some species also have soldier ants, specialized for defense with larger mandibles and more robust bodies. Ants exhibit a wide range of fascinating behaviors and specializations. For instance, leafcutter ants, known as fungus farmers, cut leaves to cultivate fungus, which they use as their primary food source. Army ants, found in tropical regions, are known for their nomadic lifestyle, moving their colonies frequently in search of food. These ants form massive columns, and can overwhelm prey much larger than themselves. Fire ants, which are notorious for their painful stings, can form floating rafts during floods, ensuring the colony's survival. Ants communicate primarily through pheromones. These chemical signals help them coordinate complex activities like foraging, nest building, and defense. For example, when a forager finds food, it releases a pheromone trail that other ants follow to the food source. This efficient communication system allows ant colonies to respond rapidly to changes in their environment and optimize their collective efforts. Despite extensive research, many aspects of ant behavior remain mysterious. One intriguing phenomenon is how colonies make collective decisions without a central authority. Researchers have observed that ants can solve complex problems, such as finding the shortest path to food, through decentralized interactions and simple rules. The colony itself appears to display a certain form of emergent intelligence. This behavior has inspired algorithms in computer science and robotics, known as ant colony optimization, which are used to solve optimization problems. Another area of interest is the longevity and resilience of ant colonies. Some species can live for decades, with colonies continuously functioning and expanding. This longevity is attributed to their efficient division of labor, robust defense mechanisms, and ability to adapt to environmental changes. Ant colonies can extend deep underground, with some species building nests that reach depths of up to 25 feet below the surface. These extensive underground networks allow ants to access various soil layers, providing a stable environment for the colony. Texas killing fields. The Texas killing fields is a term used to describe a desolate area along I-45 between Houston and Galveston, Texas, where over 30 bodies of women have been discovered since the 1970s. This region, notorious for its grim history, continues to be a focal point of unsolved cases and chilling mysteries. The first known victim linked to this area was Colette Wilson, a 13-year-old girl who disappeared in June 1971. Her remains were found 5 months later near a reservoir. This tragic event set a precedent for many similar cases throughout the 1970s, with several young women being found in or near water bodies, often bound and in distressing conditions. These discoveries underscored a pattern of abductions and fatalities that puzzled and horrified the local community. In the 1980s, the area known as the Calder Road Field in League City became particularly notorious. 4 women were found in this remote field between 1983 and 1991. Heidi Fye, a local bartender, was the first, discovered after a dog's grisly find, led investigators to her remains. Laura Miller, a 16-year-old girl struggling with mental health issues, vanished in 1984. Her remains were found 2 years later in the same field. 2 more women, later identified as Audrey Lee Cook and Donna Prudhomme, were found in 1986 and 1991, respectively. These cases were believed to be the work of a serial perpetrator, given the similarities in the victims' profiles and the locations where they were found. Several suspects have been linked to the Texas killing fields over the years, but conclusive evidence has been elusive. Edward Harold Bell, a convicted criminal, claimed responsibility for multiple cases, but his confessions were inconsistent and never led to concrete charges for these crimes. Further, he eventually recanted his confessions, though he spent his entire life in prison for slaying another man. Another notable suspect was Robert Abel, a retired NASA engineer who was intensely scrutinized by law enforcement and victim families alike. No direct evidence tied him to the cases, and he was ultimately stalked by a victim's father, who attempted to force a confession out of him. No confession was forthcoming from this less than legitimate method, and it appears that he was cleared in relation to the case. The late 1990s saw a renewed wave of investigations. William Lewis Reese, already convicted of other violent crimes, was connected through DNA evidence to several cases in the Texas killing fields. In 1997, he was implicated in the abductions and deaths of Laura Smither, Kellyanne Cox, and Jessica Kane, revealing a chilling modus operandi that terrorized the area for years. Efforts to solve these cases have been hampered by a lack of consistent forensic evidence and the complex nature of the crimes. Many victims were initially classified as runaways, delaying critical investigative actions. The region's isolation and the transient nature of suspects contributed to the difficulties in solving these crimes. The Montauk Project. The Montauk Project is a conspiracy theory alleging that the U.S. government conducted secret experiments at Montauk Air Force Station, also known as Camp Hero, in Montauk, New York. These experiments purportedly involved mind control, time travel, teleportation, and contact with extraterrestrial life. The Montauk Project theories gained significant attention in 1992 with the publication of The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time by Preston Nichols and Peter Moon. Nichols claimed that he had repressed memories of his involvement in the experiments, which he later recovered. He alleged that the project grew out of the 1943 Philadelphia experiment. This is an event where the U.S. Navy supposedly rendered the USS Eldridge invisible and accidentally teleported it, creating a wormhole to the future. One of the most riveting aspects of the Montauk Project is the claim of time travel. Nichols described a device called the Montauk Chair, which supposedly used electromagnetism to enhance psychic abilities, enabling subjects to manipulate time. Duncan Cameron, a supposed participant, claimed that he could manifest objects with his mind while using the chair. The project allegedly conducted numerous time travel experiments, sending individuals to different historical periods and even distant planets. The Montauk Project is also linked to mind control experiments. These included techniques for brainwashing and remote influencing, reminiscent of the CIA's MKUltra program. Nichols claimed that these experiments aimed to fracture individuals' minds to reprogram them, using methods such as extreme temperature changes, food deprivation, and psychedelic drugs. Theories about the Montauk Project also involve interdimensional portals and extraterrestrial encounters. Some accounts suggest that the experiments opened portals to other dimensions, allowing for contact with alien entities and the exchange of advanced technologies. These stories are often connected to reports of underground facilities at Camp Hero, which conspiracy theorists believe were used to house these portals and conduct further research. The Montauk Project has significantly influenced popular culture, most notably the Netflix series Stranger Things. Initially titled Montauk, the show incorporates elements of the conspiracy, such as secret government experiments and a parallel dimension. This connection has helped to keep the Montauk Project in the public eye, introducing its bizarre narrative to new audiences. Despite the extensive lore surrounding the Montauk Project, concrete evidence remains elusive. Skeptics point out the inconsistencies in witness testimonies and the absence of physical proof. The Montauk Air Force Station, now a state park, shows no signs of the alleged experiments. Critics argue that the lack of verifiable data undermines the credibility of the conspiracy. However, proponents suggest that the U.S. government has covered up the project, drawing parallels to real historical instances of secretive operations, such as Project MKUltra. They believe that classified documents and buried facilities hold the truth about the Montauk Project, which remains hidden from public scrutiny. The tale of Utsuro Buet centers around a peculiar event that allegedly took place in 1803, when a strange vessel washed ashore in Hitachi Province in present-day Ibaraki Prefecture. On February 22, 1803, fishermen in Haratono-hama spotted an unusual object floating in the sea. The vessel was about 10 feet wide and 17 feet high, shaped like a round rice bowl, crafted from rosewood or cedar, with metal plates on the bottom and glass windows on the top. Intrigued by its bizarre appearance, the fishermen brought it ashore. Inside the vessel, they found a young woman, about 20 years old, with pale pink skin and red hair adorned with white extensions. She wore an elaborate dress made from unfamiliar fabrics and clutched a small, mysterious box which she did not allow anyone to touch. The woman spoke an unknown language that none of the locals could understand. The woman and her vessel were eventually cast out into the sea once more. The Utsuro Bune incident is documented in multiple historical texts, including the Oshikuzaki, 1815, and the Hirokata Zuihitsu, 1825. These accounts describe the vessel and the woman in strikingly similar detail, suggesting that the event left a significant impression on contemporary witnesses. The incident has sparked numerous theories over the years, ranging from the plausible to the fantastic. Some suggest that the woman might have been a foreign princess or a castaway from a distant land. The unknown language and unique clothing support this idea, although there is no definitive proof. Given the vessel's unusual construction and the mysterious nature of Utsuro Bune, could have been an early account of an extraterrestrial encounter. The descriptions of the craft bear a resemblance to modern depictions of UFOs, although no concrete evidence has been found to support this claim. Another intriguing hypothesis is that the woman was a time traveler. The advanced nature of the vessel and her strange attire could suggest technologies and styles from a different era. Skeptics argue that the Utsuro Bune story could be a myth or a hoax, perhaps an exaggerated tale of a real but less extraordinary event. Others argue that the story was actually an allegorical tale about the Japanese fear of foreign influence at that time, and the pressure to reject such influence. The woman's clear European features, her inability to understand the Japanese language or customs, and the ultimate casting of her out into the sea, again support this interpretation. Despite extensive research and numerous theories, the true nature of the Utsuro Bune and its mysterious occupant remains a mystery. The Bouvet Island Lifeboat. Bouvet Island, one of the most remote places on Earth, harbors an intriguing mystery involving an abandoned lifeboat. Located in the South Atlantic Ocean, approximately 1,600 miles from the nearest inhabited land, Bouvet Island is an uninhabited icy expanse claimed by Norway and protected as a nature reserve. Its isolation and harsh conditions make it an unlikely place for human activity, yet in 1964, an unexpected discovery added a layer of mystery to this island. The story begins with an expedition led by Lieutenant Commander Alan Crawford of the Royal Navy's Antarctic ice vessel, HMS Protector. On April 2, 1964, Crawford and his team landed on Bouvet Island via helicopter to investigate new terrain formed by a lava flow. During their exploration, they found an abandoned lifeboat in a lagoon known as Larsoya. This lifeboat lacked any identifying marks, motor, or sails, and was accompanied by oars on the shore, a flattened copper tank, and a barrel. Despite the thorough examination of the island, no other signs of human presence were found. The lifeboat's origin and the fate of its occupants remained unanswered questions. Adding to the mystery, a subsequent expedition in 1978 reported no trace of the lifeboat, suggesting it had either been removed or had sunk into the lagoon. One prominent theory connects the lifeboat to a Soviet expedition in 1958. According to historical records, the Soviet scientific reconnaissance vessel Slava 9, part of the Slava Antarctic whaling fleet, landed a group of sailors on the island. Severe weather conditions stranded the sailors, who were later evacuated by helicopter, potentially leaving the lifeboat behind. Another theory speculates that the lifeboat may have drifted from a shipwreck in the surrounding Atlantic Ocean. However, the island's remote location, far from major shipping routes, and the lack of any reports of missing ships in the vicinity weaken this hypothesis. Additionally, the theory does not account for the presence of the additional items found near the lifeboat. A more skeptical view suggests that the lifeboat might never have existed as reported, positing that the discovery was either a hoax or a misinterpretation by Crawford. This theory argues that the lack of interest and corroboration from other team members, combined with the boat's disappearance, could indicate that the lifeboat was a fabrication. Singing sand dunes. Singing sand dunes, also known as booming or whistling dunes, are a natural phenomenon where sand dunes emit melodious or humming sounds under certain conditions. This occurrence has been reported in various deserts and beaches around the world, including the Gobi Desert in China, the Altan Amel National Park in Kazakhstan, and the Mojave Desert. The history of singing sand dunes dates back centuries. Marco Polo, during his travels through the Gobi Desert, described the mysterious sounds as voices of spirits or demons attempting to lure travelers off their path. These eerie tales added to the mystique surrounding the dunes, which many ancient cultures attributed to supernatural forces. In more recent history, explorers such as Charles Darwin and R.A. Bagnold have also documented their experiences with these singing sands, further piquing scientific curiosity. The primary cause of the singing sand phenomenon is the movement of sand grains, which creates friction and vibrational energy. When dry, well-sorted sand grains of similar size slide over one another, they generate sound waves. The exact mechanism can be likened to the functioning of a musical instrument like a violin or a cello, where frictional energy is converted into sound. Several factors influence the sounds produced by the dunes. The grains must be round and be of a precise diameter. Dry conditions are essential as moisture dampens the grains, reducing friction and preventing sound production. However, slight moisture can sometimes increase the pitch of the sound. Strong and consistent winds are necessary to initiate the sand movement and produce the sounds. Higher dunes over 120 feet with slopes greater than 30 degrees tend to produce more resonant and long-lasting sounds. Despite extensive research, the singing sand dunes still hold several mysteries. Scientists have proposed various theories to explain the phenomenon. One prominent explanation is the waveguide theory, which suggests that a layer of loose sand between the atmosphere and a rigid subsurface layer acts to amplify the sound. Another theory involves seismic waves, where primary waves produce booming sounds. However, local cultures in regions with singing sands often have their own myths and legends, attributing the sounds to spirits or mystical forces. The elevator game. The elevator game is a South Korean urban legend that involves a specific sequence of actions taken in an elevator to purportedly enter another dimension. The game gained widespread popularity on the internet around 2014 and has since become a subject of numerous online discussions and videos. The exact origins of the elevator game are murky. Some sources suggest it first appeared on Korean social media platforms, while others link it to earlier Japanese versions of similar rituals. The game involves using an elevator in a building with at least 10 floors and following a precise sequence of button presses to supposedly enter an alternate dimension. To play the elevator game, a person must be alone in an elevator and visit floors in a specific order: 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, and then finally the 5th floor. On the 5th floor, a woman might enter, but must not be interacted with, or the game will cease. Pressing the button for the 1st floor then should cause the elevator to ascend to the 10th floor instead. This is said to be the sign that the ritual has worked. Believers describe this other world as a dark, empty place where electronic devices fail, and only a red cross is visible through windows. However, there is no concrete evidence supporting these claims. The rules also provide a method to return to the original world by repeating the same sequence. Notably, one of the most intriguing and tragic associations with the elevator game is the case of Elisa Lam. In 2013, surveillance footage from the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles showed Elisa behaving erratically in an elevator, pressing multiple buttons. Shortly after this footage was recorded, she was found in a water tank on the hotel's roof. This mysterious footage led many to speculate that she was playing the elevator game, though there is no evidence to support this theory. Further later, evidence indicated that she was having a mental health episode, further discounting the elevator game theory. Mysterious monoliths around the world. In late 2020, a series of mysterious monoliths began appearing around the world. These metal structures are reminiscent of those depicted in Stanley Kubrick's 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey. They first garnered attention when a 12-foot tall monolith was discovered in Utah's Red Rock Desert by a helicopter crew on a routine mission to count bighorn sheep. The monolith, firmly planted in the ground, stood out starkly against the desert landscape, and its origins were unknown, prompting widespread curiosity and a flurry of online theories. Following the Utah discovery, similar monoliths began to surface globally. One appeared in Romania on Batca Domine Hill, notable for its circular engravings, only to disappear soon after, much like its Utah counterpart. The phenomenon quickly gained momentum, with sightings reported in California, Texas, Pennsylvania, and New Mexico, among other places. Each monolith varied slightly in design but maintained a consistent, reflective metal appearance. The appearance of these monoliths led to a variety of theories. Some speculated that they were part of a global art installation. This theory gained traction when an art collective claimed responsibility for the Utah monolith, offering replicas for sale at $45,000 each. They suggested the monoliths were an art stunt designed to capture public attention and evoke a sense of mystery and wonder. However, not all monoliths could be attributed to this art collective. A monolith found on the Isle of Wight in the UK was placed by a local designer, Tom Dunford, as a playful tribute to the ongoing phenomenon. Another in Atascadero, California, was erected by a group of guerrilla artists, but was quickly dismantled by locals. The decentralized and spontaneous nature of these installations indicated that multiple groups or individuals were involved, inspired by the initial Utah discovery. The materials and construction methods of the monoliths further fueled speculation. While some were clearly man-made, with visible welds and tool marks, their sudden and unexplained appearances led to conjecture about extraterrestrial involvement or secret governmental projects. The Utah monolith was speculated to be a leftover movie prop due to the region's history as a filming location for numerous Hollywood productions. Despite these theories, no definitive proof has emerged linking the monoliths to any single source or purpose. The global spread of monoliths included locations as far-flung as Japan, Norway, Bolivia, and New Zealand. Each sighting attracted media coverage and public interest, with some installations even becoming local tourist attractions before their eventual removal. The craze died down in 2021, and it appears that no further monoliths have been seen since. The 1976 Tehran UFO incident. On the night of September 19, 1976, residents in the Tehran, Iran metro area reported seeing a bright object in the sky. The object was described as a glowing, pulsating light, which was initially mistaken for a star or bear craft. However, the behavior of this object soon led to more serious concern. It moved erratically and emitted a light so intense that it temporarily blinded those who looked directly at it. The Imperial Iranian Air Force scrambled two F-4 Phantom II jets to intercept the unidentified object. The first jet experienced complete instrumentation failure as it approached the object, forcing it to return to base. The second jet, piloted by Lieutenant Parviz Jafari, also encountered similar issues. As Jafari neared the object, his weapons and communication systems failed, only to return to normal when he distanced himself from the object. Eyewitness accounts from both military and civilian observers were consistent. They described the object as metallic and capable of maneuvers far beyond the capabilities of known aircraft at the time. Ground radar operators corroborated these visual sightings, confirming the presence of an unidentified object that exhibited extraordinary speed and maneuverability. Notably, during the encounter, another smaller object reportedly emerged from the primary UFO. This smaller object headed towards the ground, hovered, and then rejoined the main craft before both disappeared at high speed. The ground team that investigated the area the next day found no physical evidence to explain these observations. The incident was extensively investigated by both Iranian authorities and the U.S. authorities. The American report highlighted the credibility of the witnesses and the advanced nature of the UFO, concluding that it was a significant event that could not be easily dismissed. Several theories have been proposed to explain the Tehran UFO incident. The extraterrestrial hypothesis is the most popular theory among UFO enthusiasts. The extraordinary flight capabilities and technological interference suggest that the object could have been of extraterrestrial origin. Another theory posits that the UFO might have been a secret military project, possibly by a foreign power. However, the technology described exceeds what was known to be possible at the time. Some skeptics argue that the sightings could be attributed to natural phenomena such as meteors or atmospheric anomalies. However, this theory does not adequately explain the radar data and equipment malfunctions experienced by the jet. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Jordan All, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.